Hello, punters, and welcome to a slightly different video. Obviously, usually those of you that have tuned into some of my videos before and are regulars would be used to me saying welcome to a Saturday Racing Preview right at the start of the video, but that's not going to be the case here because I've got a slightly different video here. Obviously, this is the Everest video, so I'm looking at every runner in the Everest on Saturday, really breaking down their form and really, I guess, going to give a bit of a push for each one and give my thoughts on it as well as thoughts that I've heard from around the place from the trainers and the jockeys. In case any of you have missed it, I'm sure a lot of you are quite around it, but of course there'll be some of you out there that might want some bit more key information on each runner, and you can decide where you want to go. You can either follow my pushes or you can go with your own based off what I give you. But also, obviously, this is a terrific race. I mean, it's very much becoming the best sprint race in Australia, and I know that it's going to take some time to match up to those time-honoured races. With your likes of the new markets with the 3-year-olds, and you got your Manikato Stakes at Moonee Valley. You've got TJ Smith's all-age stakes. You got all these type of sprint races around. You got the Goodwood in South Australia, and but there's something about this that is just so captivating and it's so intriguing that really draws the ire of racing fans. And I know that I'm a massive supporter of it. I'm a Victorian, so you can't put any bias down to that. There's a lot of Victorians who don't like the concept because they think it's trying to take away I guess the interest in the Melbourne Spring Carnival. I think the complete opposite. I think it just actually supplements it. I think is there any harm in having two terrific race days going on in Sydney and Victoria? I mean, I know that I was down at the Caulfield Cup a couple of years ago when the Everest first got going, and it was amazing. Like everyone was just glued to the screen and wanted to watch it and witness it. And it hasn't changed ever since. I mean, every Victorian, I'm sure, and I guess punters and racing enthusiasts across the country are glued to their screens to watch this race. It's a terrific race and it's a great concept. I mean, we get the best of the best going up against each other, really. I mean, you only have to look at, for instance, the likes of Behemoth and Geetra, like usually, obviously, South Australian horses. They don't usually come up to New South Wales, so here they are in the same race, up against the likes of Classique Legend, Nature Strip, Trekking, and Santana Lane, the old guards who have been obviously so successful Group Ones. You got a 4-year-old in Bivouac who was a star 3-year-old. You got same thing with Libertini and Tafane's in the mix. And then you've got Hawkbury on hers, who is very much a newcomer to the race. So it's just got so many different angles involved in it, considering it's only a 12-horse field. It's just so intriguing and so interesting, and I can't wait for Saturday. It's going to be a terrific race. So we're going to get stuck into it. So if you are new here, please subscribe to the video. I'd really appreciate it. So subscribe to the channel. And then obviously you can like on the video. I'd really appreciate a like. And obviously leave your comments down below. Who do you think is going to win the Everest on Saturday? Who are you liking? And any of my analysis, any feedback you want to give, you can do that as well. This is more, I've said right from the outset that I make these videos as a bit of a platform. Obviously, for myself, I enjoy doing it and I enjoy looking through the races and then presenting my information and what I think to you guys, but then also giving you something to watch and then the ability to then comment on and get my thoughts on as well. I think it's really rewarding and I enjoy doing it just much. So I hope that you guys enjoy watching, commenting, and whatnot on here. So, as well, if you are new to seeing me for the first time, I do post daily tips on my social media pages. So I've got C Lane Racing Tips on Facebook and C Lane _ Racing Tips on Instagram. So go and give those a follow if you wish to see a bit more of some of my tips and what I do during the week. So obviously on this platform, besides these videos here, I usually do a Saturday preview for both the New South Wales and Victorian feature meetings every single week, and then occasionally when we get a big meeting at South Australia, Queensland, WA, I'll do those as well to add on top of it. So without any further ado, we're going to get stuck straight into the field. Really looking forward to this and look at the speed map for the race. Look, I think that from the draw, I think that dollar for dollar will get out from barrier number 1 and try to roll up towards the pace. Might sit in behind. From barrier number 3, I think Hawkbury on her will show some toe, get up there. Nastrib obviously in barrier number 5. He'll try to just cruise and cross those two on his inside. Then he's going to have Eduardo on his outside for barrier number 9, also trying to get across into the race also and find a proposition. It's a bit of a tricky barrier for Eduardo, obviously, with those inside horses with the speed that they've got. Probably the best bet for him would be able to tuck inside the likes of, in behind the likes of maybe Nature Strip or Hawker on her, depending on how the front battle plays out. But look, besides that, horses that might sort of sit behind, I think Geetra will try and from its barrier just slot in, as will Classic Legend. So a little bit of a battle there. See who gets that position from barrier 6 and 7 between two of the favourites in the race. Behemoth, bit of a tricky draw from him. He's probably going to need a little bit of luck from there, unless he can get out the gates nicely and roll up towards the speed of the race. Trekking, obviously, he'll go back in the field. Santa Lane, he'll be back, so that's a good barrier for him there. Should be able to come around the outside and swoop on him if there's any tempo in the a good tempo in the race, which there looks to be. I love Bivouac's barrier. I think his barrier is terrific for him. He's going to probably Glenn Boss can decide what he does from there. You can see how it plays out all inside of him. He's going to have all the speed and the I guess the off the speed and the mid tier the midfield horses all inside of him, so you can just look across and see what they're doing and try and find a slot where he sees best fit. Then you've got the likes of Tefano Libertini, who probably slightly tricky barriers. Regan Barr's going to have to do pretty well to get across from barrier number 11 to find a spot. So it's the only little query with her. Tefano's draw is not too bad if she decides to drop back in the field. Might have to be the only option for her. But those two barriers, the way that the races shapes out, sometimes 11 and 12 is always the worst, but in this one it doesn't look the best for those two there, because just the way I see it mapping out there, one of them will get posted 3 wide, no cover. I can almost guarantee it. And so, as such, they are probably a little bit hard to bet on, and I think that's unsurprisingly why they've drifted out in the market a little bit, the both of them. So, I'm going to get straight into horse number 1. Of course, is Nature Strip. He's had 2, I guess, disappointing runs if you got on him at odds on quotes, or you're big fans of his, but. Look, there's plenty of excuses for it, in my opinion, and this is coming from someone who's been a bit of a knock on Nature Strip. Really, I've known of his ability. I've always said that he's a hard horse to take at the $2 or less, because it's all up here. It's all in between those ears for him. If he shows up on race day and he gets in his work and he relaxes nicely and just cruises along in the speed on his own tempo, he blitzes him. He almost can't be beat. But as I said, he just seems to have these problems that just continually come up for him, and that's why he's so hard to trust. But he's a much better price this time around. He's $4.40 at the moment. He obviously has been crunched in ever since the barrier draw. As early as Tuesday night, it was $6, and then after he drew barrier number 5, he just got crunched straight into $4.20. So he's a very good price now. His first up run I thought wasn't too bad, because he was sitting in a bit of an uncomfortable position. He didn't lead. He sat outside the speed, and he didn't really relax. If you go back and watch his run, he just seemed to, he was sort of a little bit agitated. You could see he just wasn't quite cruising like he normally does when he's in the lead. So I'm not sure. Don't think that worked for him, and it set up the race perfectly for Gee trying to put it off his back and put him away on that occasion. Then subsequently in the last start, when he ran around $2.30, he drifted out a little bit in the market before the jump, and he was travelling so nicely, and he was made to work early. Obviously, Standout pushed him early doors to try and get to the front, made sure he wouldn't get an easy time in the speed, and he then obviously got there eventually under James McDonald, but he turned into the home straight, and James McDonald looked like he was just had a nice hold of him. He looked like he was travelling nicely, and all of a sudden they came up to him and he didn't find anything. He dropped out very sharply, and he ended up finishing 4th, which is a pretty good effort, and considering obviously the post race veterinary examination came up with a bit of a breathing issue with him. So. But this is where it's also interesting as well. He hasn't raced his best races first and second up. So he's had 14 starts from 25 races, right? 14 wins from 25 races. So that's obviously more than one every 2 with him. Now, consider that with his first up record, he's had 2 wins from 6. So obviously, you're looking at a 1-to-3 ratio there with 2 placings. Same thing with the second up. But this is where it gets really interesting. His third up form is elite. He's had 5 starts third up for 4 wins. And then obviously fourth up, which we can obviously see what happens after this, whether he goes around again or not. 4 starts for 3 wins. So he tends to race his best after the first 2 runs are out the way. So look, he's going to be a major player on Saturday. There's no doubt about it. Chris Waller has this knack to get these horses right for grand final day. He's taken on 2 of the most troublesome but talented horses in Australia, and Very Elegant and Nature Strip, and he's got them right. Obviously, they pop up with a little bit of an issue here and there between them, but he can often iron them out and get them ready for grand final day. And I think that's what's going to happen with Nate Strip. I just think he's going to bounce back. This is what he tends to do. He goes around the bigger odds, and he runs far better than what he does when he goes around the $2 the $1.95. It's whenever you write him off and you think, oh, you can't back him this time around. That's when he comes out and wins. So he's a very good price, and I could definitely entertain having a go at him if you do like him, because the stats speak for themselves, and he's obviously had a couple of excuses in his first two runs from my point of view. So third up here, I think he'll be able to run a much better race, and he should be right in the finish. Moving on to race horse number 2, and we've got Trekking, obviously one of the old fellas here. He is only 6 years old, and it's hard to think because he seems like he's been around for a while. He's had the 30 career starts for 10 wins and 9 minor placings, a very good record. But look, he's obviously finished third in the event last year. He's a multiple Group 1 winner. He's a very good horse in his own right. And he's paying really good odds. I mean, having a look here, he has been backed in pretty strongly. He was as much as $17, and he's now 11s in the market. So he's been pretty nicely backed here for this, and I can see why. Because look, second up, his form's much better second up than his first up. He's had 7 starts, second up, with 3 wins and 2 seconds, and obviously, as well, what I like that James Cummings has done, I know that he mentioned this as well, is that they're trying something different this time around. This time last year, he won the Scalacci, got the Melbourne Racing Club slot into the race, and went into it off a 7-day backup, and he ran terrifically. Comes in this fresh, so a little bit different off his. He had a second first up in the Moya. It was a terrific run behind Pippi. He was obviously going to be way too short for him, the 1,000 metres, and the plan always was with that, with James Cummings, that he said that it was just to try and iron him out, get that little bit of sharpness back into him again, so he gets ready for the Everest. That's all it was for him, and he probably ran a little bit better than James thought. I mean, James wasn't expecting to win, and I remember him saying before the race, when he was being interviewed on, I think it was Sky Thoroughbred Central, that he was just expecting to run a good race. He should be in the finish, and but he wasn't expecting to win. And in the end, he ran pretty good to finish second. He hit the line really nicely there behind Pippi. He only finished a point over length off her, and his closing sectionals were excellent in that race there. So that was at Moonee Valley. He comes back to a track that he loves racing at. He's got a good record here at Randwick, 5 starts for 2 wins and 2 placings, and I think he's got every opportunity to bounce back. I think he's got a great chance. Josh Parr in the saddle. Just would need a little bit of luck from that barrier number 2 there. Obviously, he usually gets back in the race, but if you can find that luck, he could be running home nicely, especially with the strong tempo in the race, which really looks to set up nicely for him. So he looks to be a good price. He's probably more into the price now that I think he deserved to be. 17s was definitely overs. He's now at 11s. I think that's about his right price. But look, I think if you like him, you don't have to be too concerned about the 17 to 11s, because I think that was always going to happen. After the barrier draws, there's always a bit of chopping and changing, bit of movements based off what barriers. But I think you can definitely watch and wait for race day with him. A lot of these horses, I like to call them the popular horses. There's horses that, like Nature Strip, for example, money's going to continue to come for him because he's got a massive legion of followers no matter what. Even if he performs poorly every week, there'll be people to just come back and back him again because they'll trust him to bounce back. Cacique Legend's another one. And then you've got the likes of Guitra and the Libertini, who've been horses that have been thrown around a little bit. Trekking and Sandra Lane, for example, they're got the runs on the board in this field, but obviously they're maybe past the best. Trekking, probably not. He's still building, I suppose. He's only a 6-year-old, so he's definitely got plenty of racing left in him. And obviously he gets, but his second or third up is usually where he peaks the best, and he produces his best performances of the preparation. So I'm expecting him to run really well. And his trial, he had a bit of a not a jump out, but a piece of work and a bit of a gallop the other day, and it looked to be quite good. It was just to get him through his gears, so he looked all right there. So definitely a good chance. Number 2, Trekking now. Number 3, Cacique Legend. Now, this is a horse that I put an early wager on. I got him on him at the early markets after basically when he won early in the autumn, I believe it was, or just after the autumn is when I got on him. So it was before he had that run in the winter, where he won nicely there. Obviously, it was in a weaker field, but that was just a bit of a feeling out process. Make sure he's still ticking over nicely. I liked what Les Bridge did there. He just brought him out that one run. He won, spelled him. I loved it. It was perfect because it just keeps that little bit of ticking over in a horse, and can keep them sort of used to the used to race day. I mean, he's on obviously only had the couple of months off, whereas a few others that were coming into this were coming from the autumn straight to the spring, whereas he had that little bit of a run in between. So he's obviously been targeting this race since last year. I mean, there's no secret about that. And obviously, with Hong Kong owners, they wanted to take him to Hong Kong, but have kept him here to win the Everest. That's the main goal with them and this horse. And I think he can do it. I mean, he's been fantastic so far this preparation. He's had two starts for a win and a second. The second last start to Libertini was as brave of an effort as it comes. He was really battling from with that hot tempo, and he was wide, and then he continued to find to the line. Libertini got the drop of him, got the perfect run the race, and just swooped past him. I still thought that run from him had so much merit, and has him in perfect stead for this race here. He comes into it third up, which he hasn't won third up in the past from his two goes, but I think he's a horse that's just improving each time, and he looks far stronger this preparation, and he looks so much more switched on. He looks like an ultimate professional this time round. I can't see how he's going to run a bad race. Put it that way. Don't want to put the mods on him, but I think that he'll be running a top race and be right in the finish once again. Obviously, Kerry McAvoy, who's won this race twice on Red Zell, and so he knows what it takes to win this race, and he'll be looking to do it again. And look, yeah, he's obviously a terrific talent. He's a terrific horse. And what I haven't mentioned yet is that at the moment it's a good fought track. And you guys who live in Sydney can tell me a little bit more on this. But I do believe that there might be a bit of rain forecasted for the meeting. I'll just have a quick squeeze here just to let you guys know, and anyone saves them from having a look themselves. But yeah. So I mean, it's probably not going to be a whole lot of rain by the looks of it. Actually, just going to be cloudy, so there could be a shower or two here and there, but probably nothing that is going to affect the track. So I think we can probably say with a bit of confidence we're going to be working with a good forward track, which uh, is great because obviously past Everest we've seen wet tracks, so this is going to be a bit of a change and be quite good, and every horse should get their chance. So. Classic Legend, obviously top chance, and he's got to be well he's got to be given a really good rated. He's got to be well rated to win a race like this. So I think he's been set for this, and ever since last year, and he's going to be ready to peak. Santorin Lane now. He's the interesting one here for me. He's obviously the seasonal horse in this. He's had the most starts, 42 career starts for 10 wins and 9 placings, and he obviously is. He's such a decorated sprinting career. He's been absolutely terrific, the 8-year-old, and obviously he's won some terrific races in his past, multiple Group Ones, and he comes into this, with a lot of knocks. I mean, he comes in at $26, and obviously, I can see why in some sense. Obviously, his recent form has been pretty average. But what people got to remember, and you got to look back sometimes a little bit. I know that there's some of you who sometimes mention this to me as well, that you got to look further back than what the recent form sometimes suggests. So with him, his last really good top run for me was a second 4 starts back at Randwick. It was on a heavy track behind Nature Strip, course in the TJ Smith. So he finished second in that over 1200 metres. So he comes back to Randwick, 1200 metres. Basically, last time he was here, he ran second in a TJ Smith the Nature Strip. He beat home Red Zell on that occasion. And then he finished second prior to that. He finished sixth in the challenge, and that was behind Nature Strip as well. And so, looking back at that, then he obviously finished second in the Everest last year as well. So he's had 2 runs at Randwick over 1200 metres, basically spanning between this time, like now and last year, and he's finished second in both of them. So to really top quality horses. So he's got to be given a chance. So I'm convinced that he's he could come to Sydney and really relish 1200 metres second up, which he has a good second up form, 9 starts for 3 wins and 3 placings, and he could show sharp improvement. He was only 80% fit first up, according to the Freedmans. So that was just a bit of a warm-up run for him. They've targeted him for this race ever since the autumn, and basically they knew that they were going to get a slot. And it's interesting it took so long for him to get one, to be honest. I mean, obviously, you got to have a little bit of a query on his recent form in particular. He's had 3 6 in a row now, but they've all been in really good races, and he's probably had a little bit of excuses besides obviously last start, which is at Flemington, but he wasn't quite ready for that one there. And I thought the run was better than it looked. He just he sort of didn't really. He sat behind him. He didn't really make a whole lot of ground, but he got through the line okay, and he just seemed to be, I guess, just you could see that he was 80% fit. Like now, knowing about it and looking back at it, you could see that yeah, he was 80% fit. You could see it. He didn't quite have that sharp sprint in his legs. So if he has it here, obviously the race is going to map out perfectly for him by looks. It looks like he's going to be a stack of tempo. He's got a great draw. He's going to be able to swing the outside and get every opportunity. Obviously, late in careers, sometimes horses prefer to have a bit of a sting out of the track, but he has obviously run really well on good surfaces in the past. So got you can't leave him out. He's got to be a big chance. You know, these are the sorts of odds that he comes out and wins at $27. I remember when he won the Goodwood at 26 to 1. I got it in that day, and then he went to the Stradbroke and he won that at 14 to 1. This is what he does. You know, sometimes he can just pop up and really take it by storm. And I know Sam Freeman basically said the exact same words recently. So Sandro Lane, you can't rule him out. He's obviously a champion in his own right. Some of these have probably got much more progression. They've got probably improving with every run, whereas he's probably not so much. But you know, if he produces his best, he could be right in the finish. And for $27 and $7 a place, you know, it could definitely be worth an each way play on it. Just going to take a quick little break, get a little breather here. I'm struggling a little bit, so apologies for that. But I'll be back very shortly, and I'm going to be looking at number 5, Behemoth. So moving on now into horse number 5, I just realised how long I've taken them. 20 minutes in, and we're only up to horse number 5, so I have to get a little bit more of a move on. But Behemoth, I mean, hasn't he been terrific this preparation? He's obviously come back in terrific order, and he's run some top races. He's had 3 starts now for this preparation for 3 wins, all of which have been really impressive. His last 2 in particular in Group 1 company in the Memsey and the Sir Rupert Clark. He won both of them in great fashion. Both were over 1,400 metres though, so he does come back to 1,200, which is obviously there's the slight query. He did win first up over 1,200 metres. He beat Dalasan on that occasion at Morphettville, so that was that's a decent form line. I'd suggest bringing to this. So and Darren Jolly. Not Darren Jolly, David Jolly is obviously confident that he can get up to this over 1,200 metres. So look, I think that it's been a bit of an afterthought for him, and sometimes, you know, that doesn't always work out the best. I think that with him, without any disrespect, I think $9 is probably a bit short. I wouldn't be surprised if he could run a top 3 finish, but I'm not sure he can win the race. He's probably the one out of the top 5 that I think so far that I'm not 100% sure can win. He's in terrific form. This is just my opinion, of course. Obviously, been fantastic, but my little thing is that that some of these might have a sharper turn of foot than what he's got. I think he's definitely more a 1,400 metre miler type of horse, and some of these over the 1,200 metres just might be a bit too sharp for him. So, regardless, though, he's obviously he ran here in the Golden Eagle last year and he ran really well. So he has come to Sydney before, so he has come this way of going before, and he's in terrific form, so you can't knock him. But for me, I just think 1,400 back to 1,200, just not 100% sure. Especially when some of these have been targeted for this race, whereas this is sort of his. But he only got the slot really late. I mean, only a couple of weeks ago. So with me, that for me, that's just a little bit of a career. And barrier number 2 is not great for him unless he steps out of the gates nice and can roll up, sort of sit not far, a few pairs back from the lead. That's probably the only way I can see him getting a really good run of the race. Otherwise, he'd be running for a bit of luck in the running. Moving on to horse number 6 now. I'm very keen on this horse, so there's a very early head to my tips at the end of this, the end of analysing the race. Bivouac, number 6. I think he's got a terrific chance here. He's second up. He's got elite second up form, 3 starts for 2 wins and a second. He's obviously a Newmarket winner. James Cummings. What I love, this is a big thing for me, right? He obviously Godolphin have the slot. He took Bivouac as his slot. Obviously, he was confident Trekking was still going to get a slot anyway, but the fact that he took Bivouac over Trekking for the Godolphin slot, for me, says a lot. I think it means that he's far more confident that the Bivouac will run a better run for their slot than Trekking. So obviously Glenn Boss gets in the saddle as well. And I know that I was reading that Glenn Boss, he truly believes it. He said when he won the Newmarket that there was no horse that could have caught him that day. And he also believes that on his day he's the best sprinter in the country now. I'm not sure about that one, Bossy, but I can see where he's coming from. He's got a lot of X factor. He's very good, this horse, and he can often have sort of a bad run, good run, bad run, good run, or a couple of bad runs and then some very good runs. Now, His first up performance I thought was terrific. He was beaten by classic legend Eduardo on that occasion. Obviously, he wasn't quite ready first up to go, but he still ran super. I really loved his run on that occasion, and he obviously gets in a little bit differently at the weights here. Obviously, Classic Legend goes up a kilo and a half, and from that start, and Bivouac only goes up half a kilo. So that does suit him in his favour a little bit. So you got to remember some of the weight swings. Keep an eye on those throughout the program. But the thing with Bivouac, he loves a bit of sting out of the ground, and so I don't think we're going to get that on Saturday. I was very keen when I thought that there'd be some rain forecast, whereas it looks like it's now going to fall more on the Sunday up there at Sydney. So again, any of you Sydney siders can tell me if I'm wrong there. But it looks to me that it's going to be more towards Sunday now rather than the Saturday. So it takes that little bit of confidence out of me for him. But his recent trial was very sharp work. I loved his recent trial, and I love that he's been kept fresh for this. And I don't know, there's something about Glenn Boss teaming up with James Cummings, and when Boss gets on this horse, he rides well. Obviously, Bowman was on last start, and no respect to Hugh Bowman, but obviously we know what Glenn Boss has done with this horse, winning that new market. It was just a phenomenal performance. He knows when to get on the horse at the right time, and I think this might be another one of those cases. So number 6, Bivouac, has a top chance for me. The only other thing with him as well is that at Randwick he hasn't run his best race. He's had 7 starts for just the 1 win and 3 placings, but from the draw, it looks like he's going to get a really good run of the race. He's going to really enjoy the tempo that's going to be set. He should be able to roll into nice work, and he should have a lot of the other contenders, perhaps, or not the contenders, but other horses that I guess could be fancied in the race right inside of him. So he should be able to have them covered, and then he just has to run down the likes of Cacique Legend, Geetra, and Nature, which is not easy to do, but he shouldn't be that far off him. I don't reckon I reckon he might only be probably just behind the likes of a Geetra or a Libertini if she manages to slip in, so, or Cacique Legend. So he might only just be just in behind them, and he might be able to sprint over the top of them if the tempo is good enough. And I think the price is really good, so I really like his chances. Number 7, Geetra, obviously the other South Australian visitor. Obviously, I mean, he's a terrific horse. His record is as good as anyone's in the country. So 20 starts for 9 wins and 10 placings. He's only ever missed a top 3 finish once. So for me, a horse, if you like him, I mean, you can go him, so a small win and a large place, or even each way, if that's how you like to play it. I always think you should go a little bit more on the place than the win, because you get a better chance at a good return if it does place, obviously. But the fact that he's 6.50 and $2.20 for the place, for me, just looks a real good each way price for him, because he really runs a bad race. He looks to get a perfect run in the race from his draw here. He's obviously beaten these some of these with quite easy. Obviously, Handle Nature Strip first up over 1,000 metres in great fashion. He carried 60 kilos in that cage, and he comes down a kilo and a half for this, whereas Nature Strip, what did Nature Strip carry? He carried 6.5, and he now carries 58. So he comes down 2. So slight wage swing in favour of Nature Strip, but Geetride did have him covered on that occasion quite comfortably. It was a really impressive win. Been kept fresh. He's got a good second up record. Obviously, his first up record's phenomenal as well. And this has been a deliberate thing from Gordon Richards to get him right for this race, second up. Keep him fresh. I love it. I heard him today on radio say that he took him out to a water walker. Went out there, spent a bit of time out there. Then he came back towards Sydney into Warwick Farm, I think it was, and he did a lot of work there, but for over the last month. So he's really had a deliberate plan of attack for this horse, and he knows how to settle him and get him ready. He's just the fresh horse, and he's got the X factor, and he's going to be really hard to beat. He's going to be right in this finish, and you definitely, if you're going to be playing quaddies or trifectas or first fours, because I mean, it looks like there's a good chance it could pay quite well. I mean, considering the favourites, $4.60 a pair, $4.40 with Nature Strip, that you should be able to get a good dividend, and I wouldn't be leaving Geetrade out of any of that. Expecting him to run a top race. Number 8, Eduardo. Now, I mean, I've never heard a trainer be so bullish leading into an Everest about a horse that's, 20 to 1. I mean, he's $27. It's number 8, Eduardo. But what I love here is that Rachel King gets her opportunity. She's been riding terrific form. First female jockey to step into an Everest and ride, and I think it's a terrific thing. I did a little article on her the other day about it when she found out the news. So if you want to, you go check out that. There's my little plug in. as I like to, to do sometimes. But look, it's a great, it's a great, real feel good story. I mean, you love to see it, and I think it's great. And obviously, Joe Pride, he's got it. He's got this horse ready for this, and he's been terrific since he's come into his care. He's had obviously two wins and a second. The second was, of course, to Cacique Legend. He's had a bit of a spell since then, so he's had a bit of time off the track. That was back on the 19th of September. He's just had the trial recently, which the trial was unbelievable. I mean, he scorched around that Warwick Farm track. That was unbelievable. He won by 6.5 lengths, and yeah, he looked very, very sharp. But the thing is, as well, with him, that the barrier draws the concern. He obviously, if he drew a bit better, I'd be probably more inclined to have him in the finish. But you do got you got to think that a second to donate to Classic Legend last start, only a length off. It's not going to take that much for him to be close again. And $27, it's just way over the odds for me. I can't really see how he pays that based off almost just a barrier draw, because he was sort of just underneath 20, I think, or touching 20. And now he's drifted right out just off the back of his barrier. But look, I think it'd be hard for him to get a terrific run in the race, but his fresh record's quite good, and that's what Joe has kept him fresh for this race ever since his last start. So I do like that, and he's got that extra run under his belt on a lot of these. A lot of these are coming first or second up. Sorry, not first up, but they're either coming second up or third up. He's obviously had 3 runs this preparation, so he's got that fitness similar as Behemoth, so that could work in his favour nicely. Another horse who has the most runs on his belt this preparation. He has 4, and it's dollar for dollar. And obviously he's hit some. He was a late inclusion into the race from Aquis, and off the back of his 2 seconds, Caulfield in behind Behemoth. So having that form in the Memsey there behind Behemoth, obviously reads quite. Sorry, the Super Clark that one was reads well, and then he came back to 1200 meters. I think this is what locked his slot in. He come back to 1200 at Flemington up the straight, was narrowly beaten by Zatora on that occasion. He beat home Tofane and Santana Lane, which is interesting because here dollar for dollar finds himself at 81s, and you got Tofane sitting at 19, and you've got Santana Lane at 27. He did beat them home last time out. No matter how you look at it, obviously they will improve, but with that extra run under the belt. But he did beat them, and obviously Tofane was a good thing beating that day. But like I just said, dollar for dollar did beat her, and he beat he beat Santana Lane home. So I can't really understand his 81s. Do I think he can win? No, I don't think he can. It's been a long time between drinks for old dollar for dollar. He's had a few setbacks, but terrific that he's getting this chance. I mean, it's a great, feels a good story. I mean, he was a horse that he really is the underdog in this field, and it's sometimes nice to see a real bolter put into this. And he's not just a young bolter; he's an old battler who is probably, according to Tony McAvoy, in career best form. So I mean, it's great to see that he's getting his opportunity. But for me, despite barrier number 1, which is the most perfect and ideal draw for him, and he will get a perfect running behind them more than likely in Nature Strip. I just don't know if he can. I don't think he can win the race, but he could potentially place. $18 a place isn't probably the worst bet, but he is the outsider for a reason. I think all these do have something on him, just from my standpoint. But I'd be surprised if he finishes last. I don't think he will finish last. I think he'll probably be just behind, maybe I'd say an 8th or 9th or 10th from him, I reckon. Moving on to number 10, Tofane. Obviously, she, the all-age winner, and she comes back to the scene of the crime here at Randwick. She looks to, she's been prepped for this, and probably the only thing with her, she probably has a little bit of sting out of the ground. I know Michael Moroney conceded that. Third up, though, into this. Her third up form is not good. Not that good, though. She had 3 starts for just the 1 placing, so that is a little bit of concern. She was as good a thing beaten last start. She just could not get a crack at them and was bolting for a run up the straight. A Flemington over 1,200 metres, and she comes back this time of going, which might see her bounce back to some form. But for me, with her recent form, I struggle to get excited about her, really. I just think there's some of these that have far stronger credentials than her. But in saying that, obviously, her all-age win was terrific. If she could reproduce that, she could go close. But, of course, the rain-affected track probably would be a much more benefit for her. But, yeah, for me, very tough barrier as well. Barrier number 11, along with Libertini, very hard to get across from there. Talking about Libertina, move on into her now. She obviously was absolutely phenomenal first up. I mean, who would have seen that coming? That was outstanding. I mean, she was paying $13 and she absolutely smacked Classic legend and age strip on that occasion. She just sat in behind them off the hot tempo, peeled out, and just showed her terrific turn of foot to finish over the top of them and win with some class and style. James Harden snapped up that slot as basically snapped up her service as soon as possible, but obviously had to fend off Chris Waller. Racing, who had the other spare slot at the time. Aquas obviously had fun in the race at that point. And but she was fantastic, and look, she's got a great second up record. She's 3 starts for 2 wins, and interestingly, on a good track, she had 5 starts for 5 wins. Her only problems have been on soft tracks, and it doesn't look like she will get that on Saturday. It looks like the rain's going to hold off, and we could have a good track. And you got to give her a good chance again. If she can find that slot from that outside barrier, she's got a huge chance in this, and that is the only query. And I think $9 about her, just considering she's just got to find a slot from barrier number 12 is a good price. You could definitely take it, and you could definitely have a bet on it. Now, Hawkeye on her, real interesting one here. Obviously, she's very young. She's only had the 10 career starts, 6 wins and 3 placings. So she's only missed top two finish once. And that was last start where she just was made to work so hard over the 1400 meters and just kind of gassed out a little bit towards the end. So she comes back to 1200 meters. I wouldn't be surprised to see her improve sharply off the back of that run and run really well here. $34, well over the odds about her. She's really well drawn in the race. She's got upside, obviously, as well. She's third up, and she has had a win third up before, which isn't really that much surprise considering of her record of 6 wins from 10 starts. But uh, she knows how to run well, and that's a real key coming into this. That similarly with Geetra, you could probably take her each way, knowing that she could run well. Obviously, she's going to have to really lift, I guess, her overall figures and whatnot. But her first up run was fantastic. If she can reproduce something like that, but obviously a bit better. She could be right in the finish here, so she's got a chance in this field. Now, looking at my tips for the race, I'm going to give you that early ahead of tomorrow night's video, which I'll be putting out ahead of Saturday. Look, I have got Cacique Legend on top. I think he's the one to beat. Rightfully so. I just think that he's been well prepped for this, and he's going to be right in the finish. He looks to get a perfect run from the barrier draw, and I'm quite confident that he'll be running well. He'll be right in the finish and winning it. I've got Nature Strip in for second. I do think he will run much better third up. Obviously, that third up form is elite. And he does usually bounce back from disappointing performances, so I expect him to bounce back and run well again. Bivouac will be charging home late. I really think he's got a good chance in the race, and I'm going to have something each way on him. And Geetra's going to be my fourth selection, so I'm going to have him to miss the top three. But look, I could easily put him in for third, but for me, I've got to have Bivouac in there because I think it's just such a good each way chance. He looks to be the progressive horse in this race. So this video went a lot longer than I expected, so apologies for any of you that thought it was going to be a nice quick one. Hopefully you do enjoy the analysis, though. You can get through this ahead of Saturday. It can help you make up your mind, or perhaps just raise a few queries that you want to bring up. So if that is the case, please let me know. But thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. And obviously subscribe if you're new, like the video, and comment any of your thoughts down below who you think will win the Everest. And go check out my Caulfield Cup video, which I'll be doing straight after this one. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for my Saturday racing previews tomorrow night. I'll be uploading those probably around 7 or 8 o'clock, so have a look at them then, obviously. So thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Hopefully you find plenty of winners, and you can find the winner in the Everest.